That was beautiful. Only a fool would follow and act like that. And although my wife is not here to say it herself, she would say, Jonas, you're just the man. And everyone knows Bruiser. Bruiser's happy to be here. We're going to set him right there. I know Barb wants to hold him, so we'll try that. Well, first of all, thank you for making your way out. I know it wasn't to hear me. At least we hope it wasn't. Or if it was, we hope that I'll live up to whatever expectation you have. The greatest reason to come together on Sunday is to be together, right? It's not who's up here, but it's having your hearts connected in this beautiful room where our aspirations for a higher love and higher awakening and deeper peace are so alive in this room where we come. And I hope they're alive in our hearts. We come to revitalize that in ourselves and then to take it home and to live it there as best we can. Laura and Ruth pressed me for a title. You know, that's always tough for me. It's particularly tough. By the way, do we have a reverb on here? Because we don't need it, please. Thank you. You know, most of you know that I'm an old, you know I'm old. We could just stop there. But you know that I'm an old-time teacher of transcendental meditation along with my wife, Sandy. I'll tell you about her in a moment. But I had the privilege of spending many, probably hundreds of hours with Maharishi in person on various courses back in the early 70s. And I learned something interesting. People would come to the mic and ask a question, and it didn't matter what subject they brought up or what their specific question was. Maharishi would talk about what he wanted to talk about. It just didn't matter. Just didn't matter. And he would find a gracious way of tying in their question with the knowledge he wanted to impart. So I never feel particularly bound when I'm asked for a topic. Not that I would place myself on that level, mind you, just that there's a certain freedom that we have. And by the way, today we're talking about the power of speech and thought and the two most powerful words in the English language. And I did a quick Google of biblical verses about the evil tongue. The evil tongue. I got 13 pages. 13 pages. And that's after I deleted some of them. But there was one that hit me pretty hard when I read it. It said, and I'm not I think this is from James 3:1. It says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brother, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness." So I thought I would resign as soon as possible. But meanwhile, I do want to mention that the reason Sandra is not here with me today is that she has spent the last month in India with my daughter. You may have noticed I've lost 10 pounds because my cooking doesn't measure up. But she does send her love, as does my daughter. Okay. We all know, we've all heard about the evil tongue, right? And I just want to start the talk off with just a couple quotes. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up. A gentle tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. Gentle tongue I read that one. Whomever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. After 37 years of marriage, you'd think I would have learned that one. It's coming slowly. And these quotes go on and on and on. So we've heard this, right? We've all heard about the power of speech and the importance of watching our tongue, not only because it creates ill for others, it creates conflict, but it also brings that energy on us. If there happens to, and I won't say who it is, but there happens to be a political leader in the United States who I don't feel well when I think about. And so when friends send me Facebook quotes criticizing this person, I just delete them. I don't read that stuff. I try to keep my attention on the world I want to create, not on the ill of others or criticizing others. And the reason for that is we're not talking about punishment here when we say the evil tongue. We're not talking about, oh, you bad person, you're going to be punished. It's about the quality of life that we create for ourselves by the speech that we utter. And when we dwell on the inadequacies, on the negativity of others, then we take on that poison in our own hearts. This was interesting. I got my daughter, who I don't think you've ever met, but she's a lovely young lady. I think, how old is she now? I think 36. Yes, 36. And she's had hair down to here and all that. So Sandy FaceTimed me from India. It used to cost $2 a minute to call India. Now you can FaceTime for free. And she FaceTimed me to watch Selena do the ceremony where her head was shaven. It was profound to see my daughter let go of that. And there's karma, supposedly because remember when I had my hair long and I cut it and I donated it to one of these cancer, places that make hair for people who've lost theirs. And I said to my wife, is Selena going to donate that? And she said, no, the teachers said that the hair has all that karma. And who would you want to give that karma to? You wouldn't want to wish that on anyone. So everything we do has karma. And karma doesn't mean God standing up in the sky punishing us. It means that when there's energy that we create, it comes back to us. And most importantly, we are immersed in it. We are at the center point of the energy that we create through our speech. Now, here's the thing that for some reason the Bible is less, or at least as far as I could see, focuses less on. And that's a lesson that I guess I got from studying with Maharishi. And that is the most fundamental value of life, the most fundamental level of life is that unmanifest, pure potential of, let's just call it divine consciousness. That unmanifest level of creation from which the Word of God sprung into creation all that we see and all that we are. So when we talk about consciousness, we are talking about the most powerful fundamental value of life. And each of us has some level of attunement or openness or contact with that deepest value, that most powerful value of life. And that is expressed, of course, as speech. But more fundamental than speech is what? Thought. That is right, thought. Speech is just a grosser, more manifest level of thought. So it is just as important that we watch what we think as what we say. Now, one might point out that it's a little easier to keep my mouth shut than it is to prevent myself from having some negative thought, at least at my level of consciousness. So we can't control that we might have some thought, oh, that bad person, or whatever the thought is, or about myself even. However, once we become aware that we are entertaining that negativity on the level of thought, then we have a choice. When we're unaware, there's nothing we can do about it, right? Nothing we can do about it. But once we become aware, then we have a choice. And the choice is, do I want to continue investing the power of my consciousness in this negativity, or do I choose love and to create a more constructive, positive influence for myself and for the world around me? It's a choice. Now, what's interesting is that as a society, we kind of have a habit of indulging in that negativity. Maybe it's the human condition, I don't know. Maybe certainly it can't be just limited to Americans. It's the human condition. Oh yeah, and that's why people like to gossip. We reinforce that negative thinking in one another. But it doesn't matter who else is doing it, it's still destructive. I'm reminded, for a while there I was studying business philosophy, and there was a guy named Tom Peters. Some of you may remember back in the 70s, or was it the 80s? It's sometime a long time ago. And I remember he said that he was giving a lecture at some Fortune 500 company, and his job was to observe and to find some weaknesses in the company, and he was delivering this to all the senior management. And some guy stood up in the back of the room and he said, "Hey," he said, "we're no worse than anybody else." And Tom Peters said, "Oh, wouldn't that make a great company slogan? We're no worse than anybody else." And so that fits with us too, right? Don't look to others to justify unhealthy behavior that we might choose to indulge in. We know better. We've been given this unity community and all the wisdom that is shared. Reverend Brenda shared all those years with us, and all the guest speakers that come and share with us and that we read about and that we share with one another. We know. And so today's lesson is that it's not enough to curb our speech. We have to be mindful of the mental habits that create negativity and harm in our lives and in our world. Never should we feel guilty. Never, ever, ever. It does no good. If we find that we're dwelling on negativity, then we say, that's not healthy. Oh, so what do we do? What do you do, Jonas? What do you do when you find yourself thinking some negative stream of thought? So there are a couple things we can do. Number one, we can just choose to put our attention on something that is more life-supporting. That could be finding good in that same person that we're thinking critically of, could be ourselves. It could be just shifting our attention to something for which we are grateful. So bless you. So shifting our attention is one choice that we have. Another choice that we have, and I believe I've spoken about it before, is to let the attention go to the body, to feel the physiology that's stirred up at that point. Maybe it's not easy to think some loving thought because we're feeling triggered. Anybody ever feel triggered? Even from 10,000 miles away, I've managed to feel triggered with Sandy. But that's me. That's not her, right? That's me. So the other thing we can do is shift our attention and feel the body. You know, there's some knot in the stomach, some discomfort, some heat somewhere in your solar plexus, some contracted energy. And just breathe into that. Just feel that. And pretty soon it will relax, and we'll find it much easier to direct our attention in a more positive way. All right, now the two most powerful words. We know that, for instance, being grateful is very, very powerful. And that's why it's a great spiritual lesson for all of us to spend time every day dwelling on things for which we are grateful. It just nurtures more of that. So remember, I'm going to just backtrack for a second. If all of this creation is just the manifestation of consciousness, then how we direct our consciousness determines to at least some degree what we're going to manifest in our lives. Right? If God can somehow manifest from this field of pure potentiality, this divine presence, all of this creation, then remember, we're all made in the image of God, right? That means we are spending that same precious value, that same precious resource of consciousness. And how we spend it will influence what we create for ourselves. And that's why you've heard wisdom teachings like, what we put our attention on grows, right? What we put our attention on grows. Have you ever had the experience, and I had it very recently, that when I'm feeling rough, that I just tend to create situations for myself that reflect my own rough state? Has anybody else ever noticed that? They seem to like magically pop up. Oh, isn't that a coincidence? I'm feeling rough, and here's a rough situation. It's not a coincidence. I'm manifesting that because of my own state of consciousness. So, because of the power of consciousness, it becomes very important how we choose to invest it. We can invest it for good and well-being and health and harmony and peace in the world, or we can invest it in a way that creates conflict and disharmony and even impacts our health. You know, stress is a huge factor in aging. Don't say anything. And we have, to some significant extent, control over how much stress we create for ourselves and for others. Not 100% control, but we have substantial control. Now let's talk about the two most powerful words in the English language. I think we said them in the blurb, did we? We didn't give it away? We did give it away. Okay, not yet. So I was going to ask for what you thought were the two most powerful words, but I wanted to remind you that we are in a church, and I want you to be careful about which two words you suggest. So what are the two most powerful words? I am. I am. Why is that? Think about it. Because whatever follows those two, we remember consciousness, this is a lesson on the power of consciousness and how we direct that consciousness with our attention. What we're going to manifest by how we invest that consciousness. So when we say I am, and then follow it with something, for instance, I am sick and tired of. Yes, we are welcoming sick and tired. We are welcoming sick and tired. By the way, I'm not 100% sure of how well it works, but my wife is always telling me to go, if I do utter something I shouldn't, cancel. Just cancel it. However, I don't know if that actually cancels it, but at least puts in my wish for canceling it. So I am. So when there are many mantras in the Eastern tradition, and it goes like Shiva represents the infinite, eternal, unmanifest, immovable space, pure space. So one of the mantras is Shivo Aham, I am Shiva. Shivo Aham, Shivo Aham, Shivo Aham. I am, right? So we can affirm our higher spiritual heritage. I am love. I am joy. I am forgiveness. I am good. I am forgiven. As opposed to all the other things we might utter after the words I am. And we do, right? We do. So these two words, if there are any two words that we should use very judiciously, these are those two words, I am. I am. So just close your eyes for a moment, please. Please close your eyes. And I want you to think of a quality that you would like to embody more fully in your life. Could be love, peace, joy. And then just silently in your heart, I want you to say, I am, and then that quality. And just repeat that gently to yourself. Gently. Be very gently. Very gentle. You're ready. Just slowly open the eyes. So our practice as spiritual aspirants is to continually practice making choices that nurture spirit in ourselves and in others. And as always, I want to emphasize that our spiritual aspirations do not exclude being active and bold in the world. I'm sure today we are having a first. I imagine we're having a first here at Unity. I guess it was on my birthday back in December. Have I been here since my birthday? I don't think so. There was a front page article in The Guardian that 3 climate protesters from Fairfield, Iowa, had FBI files on them. And so, presumably, I'm the first guest speaker with an FBI file, and I'm just totally fine with it. But my goal is to continue to be bold in the world, but to be bold in the most loving possible way that I can. And it's not always easy, and I fall short sometimes. I have a tendency to, all this passion comes out sometimes when I'm at the mic. But I just forgive myself, remind myself of what my goal is. But the idea that I need to be enlightened before I can go out and stand for justice is absolutely unacceptable to me. So and by the way, being out in the world and being bold and standing for justice is a golden opportunity for us to practice these spiritual teachings that all of us know. Hiding out in our home doesn't give us quite that opportunity. But when we go out in the world and we take a stand, then there's that wonderful daily opportunity to be loving and to be of service at the same time. So, as always, I extend to you my love and gratitude and highest respect for your perseverance as spiritual beings, and more importantly to me, as a community, as a spiritual community. And I treasure my relationship with you, and I wish you continued perseverance. And just, if one of you is speaking maybe where it shouldn't go, you can just say, yes, Jared, but maybe we should take our attention here. Or how can we fix this? How can we create something better for ourselves? So great blessings to all of you, and I'm sure we'll have some more beautiful music, and I'll see you again next month. If I'm not in jail, we'll see.